Today is day 17 of the Greater Than One Challenge, and today's topic is high blood sugars. Aren't we so happy? Now, highs happen a lot more often than lows do. Some of the symptoms of high blood sugar is long-winded rambling speech, which is why I've done this video like 2 or 3 times so far, because they ended up being like 20 and 30 minutes long, and that's ridiculous. Another one is labored breathing. If you can hear, I'm having a hard time catching my breath. I'm taking more breaths than often, and they are deeper than they normally are, just because I feel like I can't get the oxygen in. Now, you can't get the oxygen in because my lungs right now are clogged up with blood and sugar in the blood, like cars on a highway. We talked about this before. So it's all clogged up in my lungs right now, and that's why it's so hard for me to breathe. Right now, I am also experiencing blurry vision. It feels like I don't have my glasses on, even though I do have my glasses on, as y'all can see. And it's just because, yet again, the little tiny capillaries in your eyes are clogged with sugar. And this is why a lot of diabetics lose fingers, toes, feet, thing like that. And it's because the blood vessels are so small that once the sugar gets in there and gets clogged up, even if you bring it down over the course of years and time, being stopped up with blood so often and the sugars being crystallized in there and getting gross, for lack of a better word, that's why you start to have damage in those smaller appendages, your eyes, you'll lose your vision, things like that, in your intestines and kidneys, tiny little blood vessels, anywhere where you have capillaries, there's damage done to a diabetic system. And it's just because that the capillaries are so small that the sugar crystals get like jammed up in there. So aside from those lovely side effects of high blood sugar, we also have extreme thirst on my second bottle today. And sometimes I will get confused like that, and I will forget where I'm going or get distracted easily, or I get cranky, really cranky, mad at the kids for every little thing. Like you make too much noise and I'm like, ah, and yelling at you. That was my pump giving me the last of my insulin for right now. My blood sugar was a whopping 368. Like I said, that's crazy. My doctor wants me to be between the 70 and 180 range. Because I am more active is why I'm allowed to go higher like that. Most people, their doctor wants them to stay between 70 and like 120, 150 at the most. But I do have a higher range because we are so active. Blood sugar is very hard to control. Highs happen, like I said, a lot more often than lows. Just because lows, as I was explained when I was in the hospital, a low will kill you right now. A high will kill you with complications later. And that's why the doctors would rather you run high than run low. So I run high in the mornings almost every morning because I run a little high before bed. I like to make sure I do not go to bed if I'm under 180. I like to be like 180 to 220 before I go to bed. And that's just because your blood sugar can drop so much overnight. And I am terrified of not waking up in the morning. I don't want to put my kids in that situation where they get up and they're like, hey, where's mommy? And find me. I don't want them to be in that situation. So I make sure that I do run fairly high before bed. That way I wake up in the morning. Now, it might be too high in the morning, yes. But like they said, that'll kill me later. I'm worried about not dying right now tonight. So, and then another one is itchy. My skin gets dry and itchy, and it feels tight on your body. It feels so tight. And that's because your body's taking the moisture from wherever it can and trying to dilute your blood. So your skin is something that's extra. It's on top. It's exposed. It can be taken care of easy, and it replenishes quickly. Your skin cells replenish very quickly. So your body will pull the moisture from them trying to dilute your blood in other places. Dry lips because of the skin, so the crankiness, it makes you feel like you're drunk. That was one thing that I found that was very odd. There is a thing like sugar drunk. I mean, it really does happen where like if I get too high, and I'm talking like mid 400 range, and I'm walking, the where I feel like my foot is on the ground is not where the ground is. Like my eyes say, hey, the ground is here. And when I'm stepping, I go past the ground and it makes me feel like I'm going to fall because the ground is really down here. But my vision is so off, which is why it's illegal to drive if your blood sugar is too high, because you are essentially drunk driving. Your vision is blurry, it's messed up, your depth perception is off, your reaction times are a lot slower when you're too high blood sugar wise. And I found that simple. Like I'll go to get something and my depth perception is off, so I go right past it and I knock it over, but I can't grab it before it falls. And normally I can. If I'm starting to knock something over, I'm like, I saved it. But that cannot happen when I'm too high. When my blood sugar is too high, that doesn't happen. Other than that, I think that's about it. The itchiness and such. And the frequent urination. A lot of the symptoms of how to tell if you know somebody that might have diabetes that we talked about at the beginning, like your diagnosis symptoms, a lot of those things will come back into play every time your blood sugar gets high. That's why those symptoms are diagnosis symptoms, is because your blood sugar is too high, and that's what happens. So a lot of those symptoms that we talked about when you get diagnosed, those will come back. If you let your high blood sugar keep going and you don't give insulin to adjust it, you will start in with the nausea and the vomiting and everything else, the extreme hunger. All that stuff will all come back to you if you're not very careful with your high blood sugar. And then that'll all lead to DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. And that's what had happened to me, and that's why I was in the ICU for so long when I was diagnosed. Because my blood had run high for so long that it had essentially... Erin's tearing up her makeup mirror in there. It had essentially turned my blood into acid. It was literally eating me from the inside out and destroying my organs and such. So that's something to be aware of with your high blood sugar, that if you do not bring it down in a correct amount of time, you can go back into DKA. And that's not a happy place to be. DKA really hurts. You guys heard my story from that. Erin's phone. Y'all heard my story from that, and that sucked so bad. Please keep watching your blood sugar numbers. Please stay comfortable and keep a lookout for everybody. Y'all be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about lows. Bye, guys.